Good Monday morning, everyone, and welcome to 2024. Today we are beginning our year-long read through the Psalter. We'll be reading all 150 Psalms throughout this next year, averaging about 3 Psalms a week. There's going to be a few little differences on some weeks here or there. Psalm 119 is going to take us a couple of weeks to read through just because, I don't know, there's 176 verses, and we'll break that up bit by bit and work our way through it throughout a couple of weeks' time. And I think there might be a few weeks as well where we have an additional fourth reading here or there, and a couple where we might have two. But for the most part, we'll average about 3 reads a week, 3 Psalms a week over the next year, working our way through this text and just seeking to grow in our knowledge of things pertaining to worship, things pertaining to God's nature and character, things pertaining to how people respond to God in moments of crisis and difficulty. There's a lot here within the Psalms. It is certainly not a text that has a single theme or that has a singular type of writing within it. Of course, the Psalter, which is just a word for the collection of Psalms, is made up of one, as I mentioned earlier, 150 different Psalms. And these Psalms come in a variety of genres. There are hymns within the Psalter. There are poems of laments, poems of thanksgiving, poems of remembrance, confidence, wisdom, kingship. Some take the form of poems, some take the form of song, some take the form of prayer. And they're written by a wide range of individuals. David is credited with 73 Psalms, Asaph 12, the sons of Korah 11, Heman and Ethan 2 Psalms combined, and then Solomon and Moses are actually credited with 3 Psalms combined, and then the remainder of the 49 or the 49 remaining Psalms are anonymous in their nature. And if you think about that for a second, think about the fact that Moses is credited with writing a psalm. We're talking about 15th century-ish BC, something like that, a long, long time in the past when Moses would have been around at that time. And then you have Psalm 126 specifically, which is written in hindsight, looking back at the restoration of Israel from captivity. So we have probably about 1,000 years spanning these two separate psalms from Moses to return from the exile. So there's a very long or very wide range of time that exists between these two writings, which means the Psalter and the psalms that are collected within it, um, came over a long period of time. So it was probably compiled and collected and put together sometime in again, at least the 6th century, if not the 5th century or so, to come to take the shape that it is today. Some people refer to the Psalms, the book of Psalms and the Psalter as the hymn book of Israel. I don't know if that's really the best way to describe it because not all of the Psalms are hymns. They weren't all initially set up as music. Again, some were prayers in various ways. Although one of the cool things that people have done recently, Matthew Bassford, now passed on with the Lord, preacher of the gospel and very, very talented hymnist. He actually took the Psalter. And actually, I wonder if I have one of those right here. It just popped in my head to think about this. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. I have. Oh, I don't know what kind of mess I just made. Sorry about that. But I have here uh, a hymn book that he put together. Let's actually talk about worshiping with the Psalms. He has taken the Psalms. This is a publication from Truth, and he worked together with them, and he actually put all the various Psalms to different tunes and basically set them to music so that people can sing them together. So it's a really, really cool idea. For example, his work here on Psalm 1 is set to the tune of Be Still My Soul, and he has the lyrics there, the text, and also the music there at the bottom. Again, if you're interested in anything like this, if you would like to get one for yourself, again, you go to Truth Publications and find that. Matthew Bassford is the brother's name, now with the Lord, and again, this book is Worshiping with the Psalms, and again, it's just the Psalms of the text, and they're set to music, so you can actually sing it together, or sing it with yourself, or sing it with your family. I'm sure there are some churches somewhere who are probably utilizing that as a congregation. So that's just a cool thing. But initially, I saw that, just say initially, not all of these. The Psalter was not a hymnal like that, because again, not all of the Psalms originally were hymns. Again, some were prayers, some were poems. Um, but it is a very, very powerful text. The Psalter is. I really like what the Bible Project says about the Psalms, that it's a prayer book of God's people who are striving to be faithful to the Torah, to the law, and waiting for the Messianic King. I think that really sums it up well, and sets us up for our read through this text over the next year, um, working our way through these 5 different books and sections as it has been organized. Again, if you would like to participate in the Bible marking of this particular text, then know that we have the bookmarks are at the church house on the materials table. If you're not a part of our church family and you're local, I will post an image of the bookmark on our website, and you can check that out if you so desire. Well, with all that said, all those introductory remarks, let me go ahead and get the text up here for Psalm number 1. And we talk about the Psalter being divided up into 5 different books. Probably would be pretty you can have some confidence in saying that Psalms 1 and 2 might have been put here for a reason, to really set up the rest of the text of the Psalms. Especially Psalm number 1, there are many who think that this psalm was specifically written and prepared to be the first psalm in the Psalter because of its extremely foundational message, and how it does, using that word foundational, how it does lay a great foundation for how one would approach the Psalter, and the way he or she would respond to it, and the things that are taught within it. So with that said, let's read here in Psalm number 1, beginning of verse number 1. Psalm number 1, in verse number 1, how happy or blessed is the one who does not walk in the advice of the wicked, or stand in the pathway of sinners, or sit in the company of mockers. Instead, his delight is in Yahweh's instruction, and he meditates on it day and night. He is like a tree planted beside flowing streams, that bears its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. The wicked are not like this. Instead, they are like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand up in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For Yahweh watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to ruin. That is Psalm number 1. As we think about this text, one of the things I want to try to do with all of these psalms is to identify what type of psalm is this. What type of psalm is this? I want to say that this is probably a psalm of wisdom. A psalm of wisdom. That's what I'm going to write here, just right beside the subheading of this psalm. It's a psalm of wisdom because it lays out 2 paths. Only 2 paths. Not 3, not 4, but just 2. There are 2 paths in which an individual can take as he or she approaches the Psalter. What is he or she going to do with the material that is found here? The 2 halves, as are compared here, we'll say, is the one path which leads to happiness, and the one path which leads to ruin. So who can enjoy happiness when it comes to reading the Psalter? Well, it is the one who does not walk in the advice of the wicked, or stand in the pathway of sinners, or sit in the company of mockers. You might notice kind of the progression of sin that is or the progression of the proximity to sin and failure and folly that is mentioned within this particular verse. Begins with walking in the advice of the wicked, and then it comes to now standing in the pathway with sinners, and finally you have someone who is sitting in the company of mockers. So you can imagine someone who there are those who are engaged in sin. He's just kind of walking by, observing. Then he next time he comes, he just kind of lingers and stays and stands around and observes more closely. And then finally, you have this individual who sits in the company of mockers. He's sitting there fully engaged in the sinful activity that is taking place. Reminds me a lot of Lot, honestly. Remember his story, how he kind of progressed in his proximity and relationship with the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. So the person who does not do these things, so it's a negative. The person who does not do these things is someone who is blessed, who is happy. Because instead of doing these things, the negative is he does not do these things, but the positive is that he has his delight in Yahweh's instruction or Yahweh's Torah, Yahweh's law. He delights, he finds joy, he finds happiness, he finds a desire in God's teachings and in God's law, which means, or I should say, which is exemplified in the fact that he meditates on the law day and night. Now, does that mean he never sleeps? That he's only ever thinking about the law? Well, no. Again, we understand hyperbole here in the way this is written, but this is something that is constantly on the mind of this individual. This is not just a passing thing. This is not an occasional thing that he delights in. This is not something that he pays attention to every now and then. No, this is something that is a constant within his character, a constant within his mind. And the benefit then, the blessings that flow from this, is that he is described then as a tree planted beside flowing streams or irrigation channels, and he's able to bear fruit in its season. Its leaves do not wither. Whatever he does prospers. So this commitment that he has to not doing the wrong thing and to instead being dedicated to Yahweh's law. And part of this is not just a dedication to knowing it, but also to doing it, is going to result in the blessings. And it is described here as a tree that's planted beside good water, that is bearing fruits, that its trees are, or that its leaves are green and strong and healthy, and that it does not ever wither, that it does not fail. It continues to prosper day in and day out, year in and year out, because of its the nutrients that it is gaining from the water. So just as a tree gains nutrients from water, so this individual gains nutrients from a commitment to Yahweh's law and a meditation upon it, and of course an application of it. Now we contrast that with verse number 4 with someone who does not have roots, someone who's described as chaff, which is the blowing, the bits and pieces that are left over from the winnowing process, that has no substance to it whatsoever. The slightest breeze is going to carry it away. That's what the wicked person is described as chaff that blows away with the wind, with the smallest of breezes. But this person is not able to stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. Why? Well, what's the issue here? Again, there are no roots that this person is able to grow into that can hold them steady in times of difficulty or times of, as I knew this, log out of that. Sorry. No, there's no one to, or there's nothing for it to hold on to. There is no foundation, just as there is a great foundation for the person who delights in Yahweh's law and who meditates upon it. That just isn't the case for this type of individual, the wicked person, who we could say everything that the good person does not do, the wicked person probably does. The wicked person is walking in the advice of the wicked, is standing in the pathway of sinners, is sinning in the company of mockers. The wicked person does not delight in Yahweh's law, certainly does not meditate on it day and night. So because of that, this person will suffer consequences in this life. There's debate about what is being referred to here, being standing in judgment. Is that referring to final judgment, or is that referring to something that is um, here and now? I'd say probably based upon um, not only not being able to stand up in the judgment, but also not being able to stand in the assembly of the righteous. It's probably something that is now, that is more short term. But of course, if that's going to be how it is now, if there are going to be consequences for sin and wickedness and rebellion now, if those things are not addressed, then certainly that is going to be the reality in the final judgment as well. So we take a step back then and we just consider the reality of these two paths again. Recognize there are two paths. There's the path of the person who loves Yahweh's instruction, his law, his teachings, who delights in them, who meditates upon them constantly, that applies them in every way. That person, the text says, Yahweh watches over his way. Yahweh watches over the way of the righteous. He cares for the way of the righteous. He has concern for the way of the righteous. Why? Well, because the righteous person has concern for Yahweh and has respect for Yahweh, cares about the ways of Yahweh. But the person who is walking in the way of the wicked, well, that person is only led to ruin. For Yahweh watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to ruin. Remember, they're like the chaff. They cannot stand in judgment. They cannot stand in the assembly of the righteous. Why? They have no foundation. They have no roots. They have nothing sure to lean upon. But that just is not the case for the righteous. It's not the case for the person who stays away from wickedness and rebellion. It's not that case for the person who delights in Yahweh's law and who meditates on it day and night. That person is a strong tree with strong roots, being able to produce great fruit, having leaves and foliage that are always green, never having to worry about withering or being without good nutrients. So the path then is before us as we consider the instruction, the teaching, the law that is going to be found here within the Psalter. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to delight in it? Are we going to meditate upon it? Are we going to gain nutrients from it? If we do that, then we'll be blessed. We'll be happy. But if we reject it, if we're not really concerned about it, if it's not something that we delight in, if it's not something that we value, if it's not something that we love, then we're just simply not gonna benefit. And more than likely, that type of attitude is just a symptom of what's going on in the rest of our lives. And certainly that type of way only leads to ruin. So I do hope that considering Psalm number 1, we will choose the better way and we will be very blessed as we make our way through the remaining 149 Psalms over the rest of this year. If you have any questions about Psalm 1 or about general questions about the Psalter, please feel free to leave that in the comments section below. We'll be back at it again on Wednesday, reading together from Psalm number 2. Hope that you could tune in then. Take care and God bless.